Hello and welcome to the Raw review here on Wrestling with Regret. Big changes coming to Raw this week. Samoa Joe is off of suspension and back on commentary. I like the show already. The show begins at the VIP lounge hosted by MVP, who says it's the only nightclub in America that's still open. I like MVP in this role he's been in as of late. Of course, backstage he's a producer, but on camera he's kind of like an elder statesman who provides exposition. He's occasionally still wrestling. I think he could also be a good manager if he's put in that spot. He's a very versatile guy in this role, I would say. He brings out Raw's competitors for the men Money in the Bank match. You've got Rey Mysterio, Apollo Crews, and Aleister Black, who, seeing him kind of like awkwardly sidestep around the velvet rope, I think was some real high comedy on this night. So MVP doesn't let any of them talk about, what the Money in the Bank match means to them. The only one he wants to have talk is Apollo Crews, but he gets cut off by Zelina's crew, and then MVP yoinks the microphone out of his hands, which again, there's like a lot of like unintentional comedy in this opening bit here that I just really enjoyed. So Zelina wants all three guys in the ring to just willingly give up their spots in the Money in the Bank match for her three guys, Andrade, Garza, and Theory. Rey says no, they has fight, and then Tom Phillips in commentary goes, what's going to happen to these six guys tonight here on Raw? Will they maybe have a match of some kind? Maybe a tag team match? Oh, what if it's a six-man match? That would be too predictable, never mind. Of course, he didn't say any of that part at the end, but that's basically what was implied. So we get the predictable six-man tag team match as the good guys take on the bad guys. What, you couldn't wait more than 3 or 4 weeks to have Rey start fighting Andrade and Angel Garza again? This is a very long match. Between the VIP lounge and the end of this match goes about 40 minutes long. So the first hour of this whole show is dedicated to these six guys. The story is definitely about Apollo Crews here. He gets the hot tag, he's a House of Fire. He ends up pinning Andrade with his powerbomb finisher to win the match for his team. And then backstage after the commercial break, we see Apollo Crews and Andrade get into a bit of a war of words over the championship, and Apollo just slaps the bejesus out of Andrade. Oh my God, like pop of the night for me is just the sound that slap made, the pop across Andrade's face. So a match is made for the championship later in the night. I mean, damn. That slap was just amazing. Okay, so SmackDown this past Friday had the fun roast of Triple H to commemorate 25 years in the company. Well, on Raw, things get a bit more straight-laced and more just about glorifying Triple H and how awesome he is. We get this like top 10 most defining moments in his career thing throughout the night, and number one's the obvious one, his return to Madison Square Garden after his quad injury. But then like the one that really confused me on the countdown was number 7, where it's like, oh, on SmackDown in 2000, he was in that compromising position with Trish Stratus. Like, why is that one of his defining moments in his career? And why was that ranked higher than him taking over control of DX from Shawn Michaels in '98? Nia Jax taking on Asuka and Shayna Baszler in a triple threat match. Two ladies who will definitely have receipts in store should Nia screw up. However, this match did not really get started. It's a big brawl on the outside for the bulk of it. And then ultimately, Nia takes out both ladies to the ladder. Seems safe enough. And then at the end, she holds it high above her head. Looks like she's going to throw it down on them, but she just drops it behind her. Doesn't need to do that. Stands tall at the very end. This was an interesting way to make Nia still look strong, kind of at the expense a bit of Asuka and Shayna. I don't want to call it a step back for Shayna in this one, but it is a bit of a surprise after how dominant she's looked the last couple weeks. This one was more of like a lateral move than anything else for Shayna. I was really surprised that they kind of stifled her momentum in favor of Nia's in this one. But I mean, they got to kind of take turns having some people have the advantage, so I kind of get why they did that. Backstage, Bobby Lashley getting ready for his match, and he asks his wife Lana to not go and accompany him to ringside because she's too much of a distraction, by which he means she's so beautiful he just can't take his eyes off her, and so that's what gets him all flustered and everything. So she buys it, and then we see Lashley breathe a huge sigh of relief as he gets ready for his match with Dejournette, who a few weeks ago got squashed by Seth Rollins, and more the same here. Lashley destroys Denzel in pretty short order. I just wonder how long they're going to stretch out this inevitable breakup angle between Lashley and Lana. We get Liv Morgan versus Ruby Riott again. Second verse, same as the first. Ruby starts out really strong, but in the end, Liv ultimately wins with her flatliner off the ropes, which she calls Oblivion, kind of a cool name, and a little play on words there. So she wins the match, and then afterwards, she's interviewed in the ring, and she says, she's still trying to find herself, but she's confident. And okay, I don't really get like the whole crux of Liv's character. All they really say about her is she's grown up and she's trying to find herself, and she's like, that's her one defining trait. Can you really put that that on a t-shirt? Like, what about that makes you want to follow her as a fan? Nia Jax is interviewed backstage, and she gets right into Charlie Caruso's face, really intimidating her, saying that no woman in the Money in the Bank match can stop her. Then she screams in Charlie's face, and that's how it ends. And then I guess, like, did we all have a stroke this past week and just forget that the Viking Raiders did a whole carpool karaoke thing, like driving around and chanting and eating turkey legs? I'm pretty sure that was my thumbnail last week. Yeah, it was. So this promo from the Viking Raiders tonight was just a real, like, return to form, I guess. They were back in their normal selves, no driving, no turkey legs. They were just telling the Street Profits that they've had their number every time, and they dare the Profits to prove them wrong. Now, that was a good promo. Poor Akira Tozawa just shows up to Raw every week to get demolished, and this week it's by the former WWE Champion Jinder Mahal, a fact which they bring up a lot on commentary, much to my surprise. They did a good job kind of building up Jinder here in his first match back in a very long time. He easily beats Tozawa with the Kaloss. You know, call me crazy here, but I wouldn't be surprised, or I would actually like it, if Drew's next championship program after Seth Rollins is Jinder Mahal, because they have that history. Go watch my review on 3MB to find out more about that. Yeah, I think it'd be kind of cool. Kind of a little blast from the past, a little bit of a throwback there. Jinder's looking in great shape. Why not? Backstage, Zelina Vega and Andrade have no time for Charlie Caruso, but Angel Garza offers her a rose. We then go to that U.S. Championship match that was made earlier in the night as Andrade defends against Apollo Crews. Crews at one point in the match before the break seems to hurt his knee on an Acai moonsault attempt, and that's the story for the rest of the matchup here. Andrade is working the leg, and Apollo is just fighting valiantly through everything, kicking out all these big moves and whatnot. At the end, though, he jumps at the top rope, lands on his feet, and really hurts his leg even worse, to the point where the referee stops the match, and Andrade wins by referee decision, and so he retains. And then what we find out is, later in the night, that Apollo has been written out of the Money in the Bank match. Like, we saw this scene at the end of the show where he's like hobbling through the trainer's room on crutches and everything, and then we find out on social media that he's just taken out of the ladder match, which was kind of a surprise to me. I feel like the way they were really building him up in this episode, like, man, they really want you to believe that he can really win it all at Money in the Bank. So either, I think one of two things is going to happen. Either, you know, he's written off and, like, maybe there's a swerve that happens and he is able to come back during the match or something, or he's just off and somebody like Andrade replaces him or something, and then Apollo comes back at some point, still trying to keep that momentum going. I felt it's kind of like you want to keep his momentum going, though, in these kind of, you know, weekly environments, because he's just now finally getting his footing, and the way they've been telling the story ever since WrestleMania is like they're really starting to put some time in, and they want you to invest in him. So to take him off like that for the injury, you know, I get why they did that, because it builds sympathy and it makes you want to, like, root for him more when he gets back, but I wonder if they pulled the trigger on that kind of move a bit too soon. Either way, I think that this episode did a really good job building Apollo more, and as much as I complain about it, the whole idea of building more sympathy for him and getting you more behind him, it worked for me. The Street Profits with a rebuttal promo against the Viking Raiders. They call them out for what they did with Carpool Karaoke the previous week, and then they challenge them to a match next week on Raw, so we'll see if the Street Profits can finally do what they've not been able to do yet and beat the Vikings. In our next match, Ricochet and Cedric Alexander take on the team of Everrise. Rico and Cedric win the short but competitive matchup. I love their double team finisher here, where it's like a missile drop kick into, I think, an STO. That was really sick. Then after the match, we see MVP on the screen, and he introduces his new charges. It's Brendan Vink and Shane Thorne. Man, did I call the managing thing or what? I'm really excited to see what MVP can actually do as a manager right now, and giving Shane Thorne and Brendan Vink some direction is kind of interesting to see as well. In our final segment, it's time for Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre to sign the contract to make their championship match at Money in the Bank official. Jerry Lawler no longer doing commentary, but he's still available for contract signings, but within seconds, Drew McIntyre tells him to leave because it's going to get physical, and Jerry does. Nice seeing you, Jerry. Seth opens up. He's got the first real promo of this segment here. He talks about how, you know, Drew is a fighter, but he's not a leader like Seth is, and that the championship is Seth's burden to carry. A lot of, like, very pseudo-messianic Jesus stuff going on here with his promo, which is in line with his character. And then Drew's rebuttal is saying that Seth is full of shit. Big old zoom in on Seth's face and his reaction after he says that. Then Drew tells Seth that at Money in the Bank, he should go for the throat and finish the job, because Drew is going to do the same to him. Drew strikes first. He slams Seth's face on the table, hurls the table like halfway across the Performance Center, and he goes for the Claymore before, but out comes Murphy. He jumps Drew, so he's taken out for a minute, and then you've got this hug between Seth and Murphy, but then Murphy eats a Claymore from Drew, and Seth runs off. I thought this was a really great segment. Unfortunately, the best segment of the night came at the very end of the show, and you had to wait through, almost 3 hours to get to that point. But the promo game from both guys was great, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I am loving Drew McIntyre's presence as WWE Champion, and I can't wait to see him actually have this presence in front of a live audience again. My grade for this week's Raw is a C+. This one was, again, kind of in the middle for me on this one. There were three big things I liked, but they were so far apart. There was the VIP lounge. Again, just a lot of the unintentional humor that I found in that segment, to me, was entertaining. The six-man tag team match that came after it, well, that's just predictable, and that took a long time. The Apollo Crews story arc, as disappointing as it is, to see him get written off with an injury like that so soon, I felt that the way they told the story really made Apollo look like this really brave and valiant fighter. Just wish they didn't write him off with an injury, though. And then the contract signing, like I said, was the best thing of the whole night. The promo work by both Seth and Drew, I loved it. And then the twist with Murphy at the end, and then Drew still standing tall at the end. It wasn't just like, oh, a heel beatdown, boom, 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 boom. That might still happen next week, but Drew's still looking strong here. He has looked phenomenal since winning the championship at WrestleMania, and it keeps going on this night. But let me know what you thought about Raw this week in the comment section below, and be sure to give it a letter grade by going to the iCard in the corner of your screen. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.